Tonight, $30 million Damoda City reflects local investor confidence. National air carrier braces itself for turbulence ahead. And nighttime poaching, a big worry for traditional fishing grounds. Very good evening. First tonight, another fatal road accident has claimed the lives of 2 people. This accident happened on the Yalando Road that leads into Tabo town from Rakiraki. According to eyewitnesses, the rental car had 5 occupants at the time, and it's understood the driver lost control of the vehicle, which tumbled 3 to 4 times on the road before coming to rest. The 2 passengers who died include a 19-year-old female and an 18-year-old male. A 3-year-old child and a 21-year-old man were also rushed to the Lautoka hospital. A 20-year-old is now in police custody. This now brings the road death toll for the year to 39. The $30 million Damoda City complex was unveiled last night. And in doing so, the new multi-million-dollar complex reflects the extension of the capital city's gradual expansion of its city boundary. Prime Minister Commodore Renke Bainimarama also reminded potential investors that now is the time to take advantage of government's investment policies.
There is no doubt that any investment in the country will have positive economic spin-offs. This $30 million investment by the Damodar family is no exception, as it not only represents investment by a local homegrown business, but also provides direct employment to some 600 people.
It certainly supports my government's urban planning outlook by promoting development outside the main central business district. This lessens traffic flow downtown, spreads the load placed on our water, roads and sewage facilities and utilities, and helps extend commerce to other parts of the city.
With a number of development plans lined up for the coming years, the complex is part of Suva's transformation into a metropolitan city.
Certainly raises the bar, the standard is excellent, and I can see this will become an entertainment center. And I guess it's great for locals as well as tourism.
This is something that we need in Suva. As you know, the Suva city itself is very congested. There's a lack of parking, and it's getting smaller for the amount of people coming to Suva. So this is going to complement people coming, rather than coming to Suva, they can come to this complex and do their shopping. They've got cinemas here. So this is something that we need.
Investment and developments has been the focus of the government, reflected strongly in its 2014 budget.
Around Fiji, our primary concern during the last few years has been on rural development by delivering essential services to ordinary people. While this important work will continue, next year we're turning resources to the renewal of urban centers across the country, with significant allocations in the 2014 budget.
This new multi-million-dollar complex not only reflects the confidence of the Damodar family, but it also serves as a beacon of success for locally homegrown businesses that if you think big, you certainly can achieve it. Alitesh Dutt, Fiji One News.
Poaching is now an issue that villagers in many of our outer islands in Fiji have had to deal with recently. District representatives met today in the capital to discuss marine management. And one common issue raised is nighttime poaching in their traditional fishing areas.
Continued poaching has resulted in the degradation of the fragile marine ecosystems in many of Fiji's smaller islands. Poaching was an issue discussed prominently by representatives from Fiji's 14 provinces today, as they gathered to share ideas on how best to manage their marine ecosystems.
You know, the illegal fishermen, fishermen from Suva going as far as Kambara, going as far as, and they go under the cover of the night, and by daylight they disappeared from the islands. And I mean, that's one of the main things that they raise, and they hope that the government will look at ways to address that.
Coming from as far as Onuilau, the representatives know all too well the struggles faced on smaller islands in terms of their food security and how the effects of climate change has diminished the marine food supply.
Everybody here got could be the same idea and the same paper of problems that they are facing, mostly in the area, in Lau area, because they are using that, the outside ground, the reef.
Today's workshop, collaboratively organized by the Japan International Cooperation Agency and the Fiji locally marine managed areas, hopes to give these men and women a fair idea on how best to manage their marine environment and share the information back in their districts.
So to protect those issues and food securities, we need to look at marine resource management by the community. It's not by the government or anybody else, but by themselves.
Tongan and Ni Vanuatu representatives also attended the session, sharing similar difficulties they face back in their countries. Myron Williams, Fiji One News.
Acting Permanent Secretary responsible for elections, Mohammed Saneem, has reminded all Fijians who have not yet registered to vote in next year's elections to do so. He says there are 5 locations around the country where they can register. Permanent registration centres are currently open in Osori, Lautoka, Rakiraki and Lambasa. And people can also register at the Elections Office headquarters in Suva. The country's largest religious denomination, the Methodist Church, has now weighed in on the issue of domestic violence. Responding to the findings of a survey report earlier this week, the Church says it has to be mindful of the rule of law and its own doctrines. Apisalome Rambo with the story.
Participants at an Empower Pacific workshop earlier this week were reminded of the roles of social institutions within our various communities.
Many families and many couples who have problems in their marriages and in their relationships will turn to the church to try and solve their family problems. Now, whether that is the problem is sexual abuse, whether the problem is violence within the marriage, whether the problem is too much control, all of these problems may end up at the doorstep of the church.
In particular, on the depth of doctrinal influence.
So then church leaders, and because church leaders are so highly respected here, because the Talatala is so highly respected here, the Imam, the Pandit, all of them, they have the potential of changing attitudes.
Taken lightly in the context of our patriarchal societal structure, obedience can also produce alarming consequences.
But they also have the potential of saying to an abusive father, it's okay, you can do it. You're the boss, so you can do what you like in your family. So they have the potential for great good, and they have the potential of perpetuating violence in the homes.
But the church has also spoken out on the crux of its doctrine of love, outside that of legal matters.
The issue of law should take its own line. If anyone is involved in such actions, there are lines to be followed and protocols, of course. The church wouldn't want to interfere in that.
Also sending out a message to church members of the need to be law-abiding citizens.
But when you are found being guilty of any law, there are ways there within the system of the church that would help you to come out. But as I was saying, the legal way or the rule of law should continue to go along its own line.
Saying the Methodist Church is transparently objective on the issue.
We would not like to interfere in the rule of law.
A supporting role gratefully acknowledged by Empower Pacific.
So long term, the church is an important partner, an important player in trying to eradicate violence against women and children. And I've seen lately that the church is aware of it, and many churches have actually taken steps to work in partnership.
Apisalome Rambo, Fiji One News.
The Employment Tribunal has ruled that the management of the Pearl South Pacific Resort recognize the union that its 69 employees have joined. Resident Magistrate Andrew C. has given a directive that management of the resort and the National Union of Hospitality, Catering and Tourism Industries agree to a collective agreement. The dispute was referred to the Employment Tribunal in October 2009. In his judgment, Magistrate C ruled that parties jointly rewrite their collective agreement and that the hotel management also advised the union whether it will allow payroll deductions. The tribunal also directed the hotel to allow the union to hold meetings on its premises. Both parties will appear before the tribunal next Tuesday to report on the progress made on these directives. And the news ahead, Mbalivuto water source gets timely boost, and total service from Total Management. Hello again. Diplomats should think outside the box if Fiji is to further stamp its mark on the global front. That has been one of the valuable lessons taught to the new diplomats who underwent a week-long induction course for diplomatic service. Given an increase in Fiji's presence amongst international communities, the government expects diplomats to advocate for countries' interests.
These are the 31 new breed of diplomats who are eager to represent Fiji on the global front. The challenge for these budding diplomats will be to effectively negotiate and manage relationships with some of our bigger foreign partners.
This will require new thinking and making some very tough choices through respect for the responsibilities of nations and their rights, of individuals, through dogged diplomacy that resolves the root causes of differences, and through development assistance that brings hope to the marginalized.
Lessons learned from this session includes multitasking while engaged in any international negotiation.
So a lot of personal skill sets are critical in being an effective diplomat. That's really what we, and then I explained to them some of the methodology of diplomacy that we have applied since 2006 to move from a time when we were absolutely isolated to where we are today, where we're becoming like the fashionable country of the South. Because why? We decided not to panic.
With Fiji's presence growing regionally and globally, this training also sets a platform to strengthen the local capacity of our foreign service.
The ministries is consolation to us that whatever is being pursued by the missions abroad are being currently also complemented on the ground here in Fiji, so that we are not only thinking globally but actually acting locally.
This was the 6th induction course for the diplomatic service. Halitesh Dutt, Fiji One News.
5 weeks after the Ministry of Health closed the Mbalivuto Dam in the highlands of Ba, there are some positive signs. Help from an American NGO will now make a big difference to the 2,000 residents that depend on the water source. Our West team was in Ba today with this story.
According to this family, this is probably the first time in the 50 years of living in this moto area that they are drinking clean and safe water. This thanks to the Ministry of Health and an American couple who visited the area some weeks back with these water filters.
Getting the rain every day, nearly every day, so we are able to collect some rainwater. Some people are able to get some water from the river for the other usage. So things are getting, but we are still waiting for the pipe water. So what we have been told by the government, that they're going to put the new pipes. They've already got the pipes at near Nakalua Police Post, and they're going to put the new pipes.
According to Sharma, the filters were distributed first to households that have infants, the elderly, and those with physical disabilities. The rest will have their filters distributed later.
We have received some water filters from the donors of, I think the couple were from America. They came and they've donated some water filters. These water filters were given to people who are sickly, who are of old age.
Heralding good signs, Sharma says the community has also been advised by the Ministry for Health that the dam would be open in the coming week once all tests have been conducted. As for now, the community is relying on water cudded from the Ba Reservoir and that from the Red Cross purification plants at the nearby Tonge River. This purification plant has been tanking up to 10 water trucks a day for the past 5 weeks to assist the Water Authority of Fiji in cutting water to nearby villages and settlements.
Once the dam will be repaired, the water will be ready for consumption, we can drink that water, then they will open the dam. And they said that once the weather will be good, that the weather will be dry, they will supply the water to the pipes.
For the people in this region, the hope is that clean, safe and adequate drinking water is restored to their taps as government works around the clock to ensure its water project here is complete in time. Madhi Tamana, Fiji One News.
A man jailed to 6 years for raping a former Fiji netball rep has been freed. Kaliobavuki Balemaira was initially jailed in 2010 for the alleged offence, which happened 3 years earlier. The Court of Appeal had rejected its appeal in May this year, but a quorum comprising Justice Anthony Gates, Justice William Kalanchini and Justice Daniel Gounder granted special leave and quashed Balemaira's conviction and sentence. The quorum noted that the Court of Appeal failed to carry out a proper inquiry into how reasonable the trial judge's verdict was, adding that this resulted in substantial and grave injustice. The quorum adds that there was no evidence to support the allegations and it was not in the interests of justice to order a retrial. Recent statistics released by the Fiji Women's Crisis Centre continues to be a cause of concern, especially further revelations that pregnant women also experience domestic violence. The survey of 2,815 women who were pregnant found that 15% reported to be physically abused during their pregnancy. Out of this, 33% reported to be severely abused.
We needed to look at this. These questions were asked because we have said that violence against women has an impact on women's reproductive health. And also this ties in with the findings a few years ago within the health sector, where NSS said many women had reported beatings during pregnancy and showed signs of having been beaten up.
Ali says these figures should help compel authorities to come up with special measures and policies to address the issue.
Violence against women, this survey shows, is high in all the ethnic communities, regardless. But it is showing higher rates within the Itoke community.
It's not often when senior staff members take time out to get a feel of the day-to-day experience of their employees. That's what happened this morning as part of oil company Total's annual service day. The idea is for senior executives and management to get a direct feel of what their workers on the ground experience daily. It was also a chance for service station employees to ease off a little as their bosses got their hands dirty.
For the managing director to be here with us today, it feels great. It's an honor because for him to see how we work here, how we give service to the customers.
The customers were delighted to see the change of guard this morning.
It's a unique opportunity for us just to make sure that we are getting close to our customer. It's a tremendous moment where you can have some feedback, where you can share with the customer, direct keeping some information. The day of services is really a purpose for improving the services.
Total's Fiji head says this is more than just about getting their hands dirty. And the major oil company is also looking at investing in solar energy. This was unveiled at this morning's Total Service Day initiative here in the capital.
Selling fuel is something which is, we are not only here to sell fuels, we are here to provide energy. We are here to provide energy to all of the communities.
And still at its early stages, the final outcome may be some way off.
The test here in Fiji is becoming live, or is becoming really concrete. Yes, we definitely want to enter into these energy solutions.
According to the Total head in Fiji, a partnership with the Fiji Electricity Authority is being considered. They plan to test the concept in Vunda in the Western Division. The USP's Oceania Dance Theatre took a different approach today to raise awareness on climate change. Moana, the Rising of the Sea, is a show funded by the European Union to demonstrate these impacts of climate change. And what better way to illustrate this than in an artistic fashion?
It's the first time something artistic has been in the academic realm, using it for a voice for the people.
Organizers say the show represents the voice of concern from many Pacific Island countries. The last show is scheduled for this Saturday.
Many times it's data that's collected, what's happening around, but many of it it's never artistic. So this is the first time they've invested in money for something artistic to comment on what's happening around the globe.
We have the latest news from around the Pacific up next. Stay with us. Pacific Islands Forum Secretariat has responded to Fiji's withdrawal from Pacific ACP trade talks. In a statement today, the forum rejected the alleged contravention of an agreement by Pacific ACP member states. The forum says the Pacific ACP Trade Ministers and Fisheries Ministers meeting convened in the Solomon Islands was duly notified to Fiji, and other countries freely agreed to attend. The statement says that until Fiji's unheralded withdrawal, there was no dissent, nor did anyone object to the Honiara meeting from any PACP country, including Fiji. The Forum Secretariat also clarified that the meeting with the EU Trade Commissioner was not a negotiation session, but rather a special meeting that was convened to clarify issues and take stock on the status of the EPA negotiations before formally resuming the negotiations with the EU. The Secretariat also denying that they are acting for the EU and that it is putting pressure on the PACP states or dictating directions. Kiribati's President Anote Tong has welcomed last week's assurance from Fijian Prime Minister Commodore Barenge Bainimarama that Fiji will not turn its back on Kiribati in its hour of need. According to PAC News, President Tong welcomed the remarks made by Bainimarama during the recent 9th Pacific Islands Conference on Conservation and Protected Areas held in Suva last week. Bainimarama had said that, quote, if the sea level continues to rise because of the world won't tackle global warming, some or all of the people of Kiribati may have to come to live in Fiji, unquote. President Tong says this is the kind of moral response that they needed, especially from a neighboring country within the Pacific. He says this is now a moral challenge because it calls on answers which are unprecedented, heard of, so this calls for out-of-the-box solutions. PM Bainimarama had also confirmed last week that Kiribati had purchased 6,000 acres of land on Vanuatu as climate change insurance. And remember, you can view tonight's Fiji One News Bulletin on our website. That's at www.fiji1.tv. And you can also watch previous news bulletins as well as our current affairs, business and sports shows. The Fiji Police Force has signed up to a new 3-year radio communication network service agreement. This was signed with PACTOC Communication, a fully owned subsidiary of Fiji Television. The agreement allows PACTOC to set up a wide area network for the Fiji Police Force using a fully digital platform supported by global brand Motorola. This will see new features with police such as encrypted digital radio communications, GPS, vehicle tracking systems, as well as a text messaging solution with the ability to respond to emergencies. Today's agreement with PACTOC is also a build-up to next year's general elections, where police communications will be critical. And as you heard earlier, the opening up of the new Demodus city has also opened up a whole host of economic activity on the fringes of the capital city. This morning, major brands like Digicel also opened their outlets at the new complex. Fashion retail outlets such as Jack's also latching on to the new economic opportunities on offer. Barely into its first day since last night's opening, the Prime Minister Commodore Barenge Bainimarama shoppers have already started flocking to the brand new shopping location. It's something retail outlets such as Jack's say will have long-term multiplier economic effects.
The Moda retail outlet just in time for 12 days of shopping experience at Christmas. If you know, it's 12 days to Christmas. At Jack's of Fiji, we'd like to give a fashionable fashion solution for the whole family. And it's about gifting, it's about the street fashion, you know, create your own style and be confident about it. As you can see with the live models we have here.
And Maran is next with sports. And finally, the Dubai Sevens Trophy comes home.
That's right, Vili, and it is a special moment that's coming up. Also ahead, Roy Krishna dazzles at the Club World Cup. And Navy sails off with a bulk of Super Rugby awards.